From its roots back in the 1800s, computers have changed us and themselves. Charles Babbage was an early pioneer who proposed the difference engine in 1822. This advanced calculator was not built until the 1990s. During his lifetime, he never received enough funding for his project. The blueprints were saved, and this 5-ton, fully mechanical machine was constructed. To use this machine, one must crank the handle 4 times for each calculation. The machine took a figure, added it to the next figure, and if there was a digit in the tens place, there would be a bronze lever that carried that number to the next problem. At the end of the calculations, the result would be a number up to 31 digits. This number was then printed and pressed into a soft material so that no errors would be made. One of the biggest discoveries was made in 1935 by Konrad Zuse. He created one of the first computers, the Z1. This computer had the basics of computing, the binary system, storage, and control. His computers were both mechanical and electronic at the same time. In 1950, Mr. Zuse released his Z4 for commercial purchase. This computer was used to help build the Grand Dixens Dam in Switzerland. Let's travel way back to 1946. A computer named the ENIAC was created by John Mauchly and John Eckert. It was so big it required a whole room. This computer had none of the things that modern computers do. It had almost no RAM, but was still electronic. First off, this computer was created out of 18,000 vacuum tubes and cost millions of dollars. Second, this computer was like a child. It needed attention. Teams of people would wire and rewire this beast after every task. This took a lot of hard work and time. Finally, this computer was not meant for peaceful uses. It was designed to help calculate artillery fire in World War II. Many computers of this age were developed for the same purpose. The ENIAC also used the same numeral system as the difference engine from the 1800s. In 1951, 5 years after the ENIAC, Mauchly and Eckert developed the UNIVAC. This computer displayed how computers could be used for good instead of for war. The UNIVAC and the ENIAC were very similar, but the UNIVAC was a little smaller and only required one user at a time, unlike the ENIAC with its teams of people. The UNIVAC was designed to calculate lots of numbers without having to be rewired. This meant that it was a lot more useful compared to the ENIAC. In 1952, the UNIVAC had its first big success. The UNIVAC added up all of the votes for the presidential election and declared Eisenhower the next president of the United States. However, the UNIVAC and all computers at this time were only owned by big companies, the rich, or scientists. Later, companies such as IBM would change this. Up until the late 1960s, computers in the home had limited capabilities. Douglas Engelbart and his team of engineers developed something that they deemed the World Wide Web. In 1968, Engelbart gave a big demonstration which people nowadays call the mother of all demos, where thousands of people saw the wonders of new technology. Now people could create domains where they could share about themselves, promote businesses, or just find a picture of a cat. At this demonstration, the mouse, hypertext, real-time editing, and communication through video and audio over 37 miles away were also displayed. The mouse, which tracks the cursor on the screen, evolved from a case containing metal discs, to a trackball, to a laser. This was the beginning of a new era of computers, one filled with interaction between users. IBM is a company that revolutionized the computer market by providing the IBM PC in 1981. PC stands for personal computer. The term personal computer had been used since 1962. Although expensive, worth about $5,000 today, the IBM PC became more popular as it used a keyboard, mouse, color monitor, and included a hard drive and a speaker system. IBM claims to have created this style of computing, but Apple had been using this type of configuration since 1976. In the early computer age, companies like IBM and Apple ruled the market. Microsoft, which primarily sold operating systems for PCs, began to offer software that changed how computers were used. In 1983, Microsoft released Microsoft Word. Before the development of word processing software like Word, people used printing presses, typewriters, or pen and pencil. With Word, people could create documents by typing, fixing their mistakes without a big hassle, and printing when they finished. In 1985, Microsoft released Microsoft Windows 1.0, a GUI operating system. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. This means that users navigated their computer by clicking on icons instead of inputting commands. This was invented and developed by Alan Kay and his colleagues. Computer designers finally noticed not just that end users had functioning minds, but that a better understanding of how those minds worked would completely shift the paradigm of interaction. The Apple Macintosh, made in 1984, was the first computer to have a GUI, so the two companies had the same idea around the same time. Microsoft never actually produced computers, but they sell the operating systems for companies that create the rest of the computer. Apple is one of the most well-known computer companies in the world. Its very first computer required users to build a custom case and buy a screen to display the graphics. Later on, Apple had so much success that they donated Apple II computers to classrooms, and computers were becoming less of a mystery. Under the leadership of Steve Jobs, Apple's former CEO, Apple created one of the most successful portable devices, the iPhone, which started a trend of touch-sensitive devices. The iPhones had phone and internet capabilities through service providers such as AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon. After this, the iPad came out with Wi-Fi compatibility. Under Tim Cook, the current CEO, Apple has introduced thin phones with big screens and thin computers with small screens. Created in 1961, Space War was one of the first video games. Created on the PDP-1 by an MIT student, Steve Russell, this game showcased the power of the PDP-1. Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, created a clone of the game, which launched the video gaming industry. Modern examples of video games use microprocessors that provide the capability for much better graphics than earlier games. Created in 1972, Atari revolutionized computers and gaming with successes such as Pong and Asteroids. Atari later moved on to creating computers like the Atari 800 and other microcomputers. These computers were revolutionary as they combined gaming with everyday use. Here is an excerpt from our Skype interview with the creator of Atari, Nolan Bushnell.
I really was passionate about building a strong company. And what I'm sort of the most proud of is the corporate culture that I created, which was taken to Apple, which sort of defined Silicon Valley. Like when I started, it was common that engineers wore a coat and tie to work. And now they can come to work looking like crap. And I kind of feel like that was, that I created that. Maybe it's not a step in the right direction, but I think it is.
Now humans live and breathe computers and technology, and this helps us in many ways. The part where we create robots that are too powerful and take over the world won't happen too soon. So take advantage of this great technology we have to watch movies about humans creating robots that are too powerful and take over the world.